Hello, buddy, and welcome back to another episode of your OGR. As today is game 40, as the Edmonton Oilers went up against the Montreal Canadiens, and we walked away with a massive 7-2 victory. As we get to see Evander Kane's debut. Not just that, we got to see a great night from William Lagesson and Chris Russell playing defensively. Stuart Skinner did alright, and overall, every guy had a point, but for two players on the forward core, and I think one defenseman didn't have a point. Three players were left out without having a point throughout the night, which is just absolutely amazing to see that point production from everyone. And it was all on 5-on-5, which is really good. Hopefully that grows, some more confidence with our 5-on-5. But we'll be getting into that a little bit later on. But before we do, I'd like to just say, if you are new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit that like button as well. That'll be very much appreciated, boys. So let's hop into this one and review the game. Now, I was working a little bit, so I had to rewatch it. I didn't really pay too much attention to the game. I watched a little bit of Evander Kane, and he wasn't terrible, but you could definitely see that there's a little bit of rust on Evander Kane's game, without a doubt. But I didn't mind it. He was really physical. He went out there, got the first goal of the game for the Edmonton Oilers, and he didn't look that bad for his first game back. I mean, he hasn't played since December, and that was in the AHL. He hasn't actually played an NHL game since last year. So, overall, looking at Evander Kane's game, he looked like really good. The teammates seemed like they really enjoyed him. So, overall, some really good positives to start off with Evander Kane on the team so far. Some really good positives. So, yeah, let's get right into the review and all the goal scoring of the game. And the first goal of the game was fucking Evander Kane, which is the first time we actually scored first in a game in 12 games. That is absolutely just an abomination that, I have to say that physically, that we have not scored the goal first in 12 games. Absolutely blows my socks off that, we've been that, terrible scoring the first goal. But Evander Kane, he scores his first goal at the starting of the game, and it was a really nice shot from Evan Bouchard and a really nice tip from Evander Kane to get his first goal of the season. And then right after that, Zach Hyman also got a really nice tip from Chris Russell as he shot it from the point, and Zach Hyman tipped it right into the back of the net. And Zach Hyman was pretty offensively dominant in this game, I gotta say. I'm really not liking Zach Kassian on that line, to say the least, between Nuge and Hyman. I feel like they could throw a better winger without a doubt. Excuse me for the burp. But Zach Hyman scored a beautiful goal with a beautiful tip to put that one right in the back of the net and give us a 2-0 lead. And then right after that, Draisaitl threw up his 30th goal of the season. And I think this is what was the one where it went off of, I think it was Kel Clegg is his skate. Draisaitl cut right to the net, went off of someone's skate, and then ran into the back of the net to get his 30th goal of the season as he hit his 30th in 40 games. What an amazing season for Leon Draisaitl so far this year. He has just been an absolute monster. He threw up 2 big goals in this game. Didn't play a whole lot of minutes, but man, he was very offensively dominant. I've been really liking the line between Foegele, him, and Puljujarvi. Puljujarvi didn't produce a whole lot, but it's overall just been a good line. Like, sometimes Foegele just looks like, complete utter ass, and then there's other moments where Foegele looks really good, and it's just an in-between between Foegele. Sometimes he looks fantastic, sometimes he just doesn't look like he's doing very much out there, and what me and Perlo call him, stone hands Foegele, because sometimes his hands legit just turn into bricks, and he just can't do anything out there. Moving on to the next one as we move into the second period. Now, the first period for the Edmonton Oilers, I thought we played really, really good. We were offensively dominant. Montreal was fine back near the end. And then coming into the second period, I actually felt like the Montreal Canadiens were actually getting a good amount of chances against us. And I think the biggest thing was that, Stuart Skinner did quite well, but there was a lot of times, especially in the first period, where he was just looking very hoppity, he was looking very nervous in the net. Definitely was not looking himself throughout that game, but he was still very solid. He definitely kept us in this game. Well, I mean, it was pretty easy. We had a 3-0 lead that we gave him, and he only gave up 2 goals. That's pretty good for him looking a little bit nervous, and he really did step up big time going in that second period, where he definitely did make some good saves. Of course, you really can't do anything when you give up a juicy rebound to Josh Anderson, who pats that into the back of the net, getting his 9th goal of the season for the Canadians to get their first goal of the game. But then the Oilers hop right back on the horse. Nuge got his 4th goal of the season by a beautiful pass by Zach Hyman, as it was just a beautiful snipe by Nuge to get his 4th goal of the season. And then a beautiful face-off win by Nuge, not even that, well, yeah, about 10 minutes after. Zach Hyman scored his 13th goal of the season, which was a nice, like, spin-around pass. He was protecting the puck really nice. Seen an opening, spun around, and shot it right behind Montemblot to give the Oilers a 5-1 lead. And it was a beautiful goal by Zach Hyman. Beautiful face-off win by Nuge. Smart move by Nurse to send it around the boards. And it was a really nice goal by Zach Hyman. And then, of course, we took an unfortunate penalty, which gave the Montreal Canadiens a beautiful opportunity to start the power play. They win the face-off. They scored a goal right off the get-go. It was a really quick power play. I think Zach Kassian took that penalty. And I think, oh yeah, that was where he blew up the goalie, basically. and Montreal just didn't do anything. They just watched Zach Kassian blow up their goalie, and they just sat around and looked at Zach Kassian like he was, like, second coming of God. And Zach Kassian was like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Zach Kassian has just been absolutely useless. We're going to get into a little bit later on when we talk about, you know, the lines and everything like that. And the reason why I'm not a big fan of the Hyman, Nuge, and Kassian line is solely because of Zach Kassian. And I think we could have a better player play there instead of Zach Kassian. But moving forward, of course, you have Tyler Toffoli scored a big goal on the power play, which nothing you could really analyze on that play, but for the fact that it was a really nice 1-T. It beat Skinner good. And, I mean, unless Draisaitl won that faceoff, there was really going to be no way of really stopping that. All their players were really far away from Toffoli. He was just in another realm. Really can't do anything about that. Draisaitl scored his 31st goal of the season, though, once again, which was a nice slap pass by Foegele, basically. It got over to Draisaitl, who picked up the juicy rebound to give us that 6-2 lead. And like I was saying in the second period, the Montreal Canadiens definitely played really good in that second period. They were definitely getting some good chances. They were getting some shots. But I was talking with my father, and he said a lot of the shots were from the outside, and I definitely do agree. But they did have a solid 15 shots against us in that second period. They were peppering shots. But then heading into the third period, we definitely kept the Montreal Canadiens' chances to a minimum, and I felt like we played really good in the third period. There was definitely not a lot of action in the third period, to say the least, because I think Tippett just went into the game where just, you know, guys, we're already whooping this team's ass. We already had a lot of point production. Just play, you know, the trap game that I don't know why we always play that in the third period when we have a lead. But we did really well, I guess. I mean, it's kind of easy to play that trap game, especially against the Montreal Canadiens, who hasn't been a very offensively potent team. But then our boy Derek Ryan scored his 3rd goal of the season with a beautiful pass from Devon Shore to send him up for a 1-T right at the end of the third period to give us that 7-2 lead. Whew, that was a lot of goals to talk about, to say the least. That was a lot, to say the least. But hey, we pulled away with a big victory, and of course there was a lot of fans like, oh, we're gonna still fire everyone? Yeah, of course. Like, I still want everyone to be fired. This game, I don't know why people are taking this game as such a huge victory. Like, it definitely is, you know, it's awesome that we get to see this point production from this team, but we were legit facing one of the worst teams in the NHL in the Montreal Canadiens. So yeah, I can see that, you know, we definitely build some chemistry alongside of each other. That's a big thing here for the Edmonton Oilers, especially 5-on-5 with Kane being implemented into the team. We want to get that chemistry going, so that is the biggest thing out of tonight, was that we were able to create that. But this is not a massive victory for us. We still definitely did struggle 5-on-5, especially against a team like this, where they were still able to pepper a lot of shots on us. They were still able to get some really nice chances against us. We didn't play that bad defensively. And let's get into the lineups and overall talk about every lineup. The first line between Kane, McDavid, and Yamamoto, I actually kind of enjoyed that line. They were looking pretty good. They were generating a lot of offense. Kane was being physical, which is definitely what we need, a little bit of a power forward. But overall, the line wasn't looking too bad. McDavid didn't produce any points in this game. He actually stayed off the stat sheet. But he was out there generating some plays. They weren't definitely the most dominant line in the world. What the dominant line was Draisaitl, Puljujärvi, and Foegele. They were generating a lot of offense. Foegele had 2 points in the night. Draisaitl had 2 points in the night. They were looking really good throughout the night, and I was really impressed by them. Then the third line between Nuge, Hyman, and Kassian. Kassian, to me, is still just very useless. He is a perfect way to explain it, the cardio player. who just skates around, does nothing. He just looks like a fucking pylon out there and really doesn't do a whole lot for the team. And I still don't know why he's playing on that third line. We have better uses to replace Cassian. One player, Tyler Benson, I think he skates way harder than Cassian. I think he actually hits more than Cassian over the past couple games. Whenever I see him, he actually reminds me a lot of Cassian, a player that goes and hits everyone, generates a lot of good offense, and he looks really good. And I think Benson could play really good alongside of Nuge and Hyman. You put Hyman on that right side, Nuge as the winger, Benson as that left winger, and I think that could be a really, really good line for the Edmonton Oilers, or even throw Perlini there. I mean, I would rather prefer Benson. Benson, without a doubt, I think belongs there, and it still mind boggles me that we're not playing Benson. We haven't played Benson over the last few games, and it's absolutely mind boggling why we continue to play Shore. Now that fourth line between Shore, Ryan, and McLeod wasn't terrible. They didn't produce a whole lot of offense. They didn't play that bad defensively throughout the night, to say the least. They were one of the lines that I didn't have to complain about defensively. But otherwise, not too bad of a night. I do believe that, they weren't the greatest defensively between Nuge, Cassian, and Hyman. They gave up a lot of opportunities, especially 5-on-5. But I believe just we need to get rid of Cassian. Cassian is just not a player that we need. I know that they think of grit, but he's just useless grit because he doesn't do anything out there. And I'm just not a big fan of Zach Cassian right now, and he does not belong to play alongside of Hyman or Nuge. Moving on to the defensive core, though, Bouchard and Nurse had a really good night. I thought they played really well defensively. They did give up that 1 goals against, but overall, they had a really good night. They played pretty well. Keith and Cece, I know that Keith had 2 assists on the night, but he just wasn't making the passes. He was holding on to the puck too long. That was the biggest thing, is that I seen open passes for him multiple times, but he just continued to hold on to the puck, continue holding on to the puck, and it would cut back. I wasn't a big fan of him. Cece was really physical, which I like to see, because I think we need a physical defenseman in there to clear the net, and Cece was, having some big hits throughout the night, but still, they didn't have a phenomenal night between Keith and Cece. Russell and Legason, I thought they were a phenomenal pair. Legason had a really, really good night for the Edmonton Oilers, was really solid defensively. He played 16 minutes out there, and I was just really big fan of Legason. He was good offensively, not just that, he was really good defensively, and I thought Legason just had a really good night for the Edmonton Oilers. And then Stuart Skinner, he looked a little bit nervous out there. He was making some saves, but giving up a lot of rebounds. And I can definitely see why people are, wanting to get goalies. And one of my subscribers, Andre Cabral, shout out to him. He's always a guy that joins onto the stream. And he was telling me on my last OGR that he doesn't see a big problem with our defense. And, of course, he said that we can improve upon it. But I think I'm putting way too much thought onto the defense. But for me, when I watch this team's playing defensively, I see Keith and Cece being a top 6 pairing. I don't see him as a top 4 pairing. I can see Cece playing as a top 4 defenseman, but even then, he's not phenomenal. We need at least one more top 4 defenseman, and I think this defensive core could be alright. Nurse has been playing phenomenal this year. He's definitely stepped up his, play defensively. And also Bouchard has been really good as well. But we need that one defenseman and that one goaltender to really make us a team that I think could compete for the cup. But until we get that, I don't think we're a playoff team. I know, like Ryan Whitney was saying, oh, this is a conference finals team. Not with the goaltending that we've been having. It's been very, wishy-washy. Sometimes we get it phenomenal, and then other times it's just very mediocre. And that's the same with our defense core. Sometimes our defense core is alright, and it exceeds above our expectations, but then there's other nights where it's just like, yeah, this is the defense core that we were expecting, and it's definitely not phenomenal. So, thank you very much for the comments. It is always very helpful, guys. I always like to pick on people's brains, and it's always good to see that. I think we definitely still need to improve upon the defense core. It's alright. It's definitely been, doing better than what I expected to do some nights, but there's other nights where I'm like, yeah, this is the defense core that I thought, and it was alright against the Montreal Canadiens, but once again, we were facing off against the Montreal Canadiens, and every goal that we had last night was 5-on-5, so I definitely give that a dub that we had, every goal that we scored was 5-on-5, but once again, it was against the Montreal Canadiens, so we'll have to see how we play against the Ottawa Senators, and then on Wednesday we face up against the Washington Capitals on Wednesday, so it should be some really good action. But for now, guys, I'm going to end the episode here. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys all in the next one, boys. Adios, amigos.